OA Preamble. Overeaters Anonymous is a fellowship of individuals who, through shared experience, strength, and hope, are recovering from compulsive overeating. We welcome everyone who wants to stop eating compulsively. There are no dues or fees for members. We are self-supporting through our own contribution, neither soliciting nor accepting outside donations. OA is not affiliated with any public or private organisation, political movement, ideology, or religious doctrine. We take no position on outside issues. Our primary purpose is to abstain from compulsive eating and compulsive food behaviours and to carry the message of recovery through the 12 steps of OA to those who still suffer. How our meeting works. At this meeting, we follow a rotating format. On the second week of the month is a recovered OA speaker who will be speaking on the topic of their choosing for 30 minutes. There will be a follow-up question and answer segment for 15 minutes where fellows are welcome to ask any questions which are related to the topic in question. This meeting will be recorded by audio only, and you will see a recording sign at the top of your screen. The Q&A section of our meeting will also be recorded. Please post only in the chat function your questions to our host, which is Alan this evening, and we will ask the question anonymously on your behalf. Please do not do this before the Q&A segment opens. Before we share, it's time for our 7th tradition. Although we meet electronically, we still have Zoom meeting costs. Okay, and we also give contributions to OA, UK, Europe and beyond, which is our virtual intergroup. Please make a contribution using the PayPal link that is being posted in the chat now. Newcomers, we ask that you wait to contribute until you are sure you wish to be here. Today is a speaker meeting, and we are honoured to have Cathy come to share her experience on God is either everything or he is nothing. And so, Cathy, over to you. You're ready. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cathy C. I'm a recovered compulsive overeater from Montreal, Canada. So I think in the UK, it's just as cold as it is here. So let's stay warm. I'm grateful to be here, to be asked to speak and to share, especially on the big book. You know, there was once a time when I first came into OA 10 years ago that I refused to read the big book. I could not identify with it at all. I didn't want to identify with it at all. I really thought I just had a food problem. I just needed a diet. I just needed to lose like 20 pounds. That was it. Give me the diet plan and I'm out of here. Maybe you guys need it all, but I certainly thought, you know, I didn't. And that arrogance, I have to say, stayed with me for a while. But what brought me to OA? Well, I don't have the typical, you know, story like everyone, or not everyone, I should say, a lot that we hear that they knew they had this, you know, disease from an early age, right? They were obese from young, and now through, you know, childhood and high school and adulthood. Well, mine started in, you know, my mid-30s, and I started a diet and I became obsessed with staying thin and eating healthy. I really thought I had arrived, you know, and I got all this attention. Everyone was asking me, oh my God, you know, you look great, you look good. And I really had this like self-importance, like I really have to live up to this image. Oh my God, it was the worst. But now it happens to be the best thing that ever happened to me because I found God. So I'm a grateful, recovered compulsive overeater. I'm not grateful that that you know, I'm a compulsive eater, but that I'm recovered. Why? Because I found God and I found life again. I found a life worth living, I should say. And so I stayed in OA. Again, the food kept coming up. I couldn't stay abstinent. I didn't, you know, understand or get this. And the problem was, I see it now, is because I didn't have a relationship with God. I had an understanding of a little bit of a God-like, more like, you know, he's over there like a Santa Claus. He was a punishing God. I was afraid of this God. So, you know, I always thought I failed in the likeness of being godly. I really looked at him like a person, like human qualities, and that didn't work for me at all. So this went on, right? I kept binging and starving, binging and starving. That was my cycle. 5 days in, 5 days out, the same 5 pounds over and over again. And as I did this, trying to do it on my own, right? Even in a way, especially in a way, it got worse. It progressively got worse. And you would think when you practice something, you get good at it, right? Let's say diving or swimming, after a while, after 3 months, 6 months, after 2 years, you're a pretty great swimmer. With this compulsion to eat and me trying to figure it out, doing it, by myself or with my own ideas, which always included dieting, also trying to, treat the body. That did not work. It got worse. The opposite happened with me. The harder I tried, the worse I got. And it tells me that in the big book as well. And once I was introduced to the big book, I was very much attracted to it because I surrendered to it, right? And I had to abandon myself to the steps or to the work. And that worked. It really did. It really helped me. But I still was not abstinent. See, it helped me a little bit, but I was still not abstinent. I couldn't get abstinent, like free, 100% free, like I have now. I thought that's how it was supposed to be. I really thought I was doing okay. Oh, a good day, bad day, a good week. Oh, I had a little slip here, a little slip there. I really thought that, I had to try the harder into working with others because that's what my sponsor was telling me. I'd say, I'm still having trouble with the food, and this is like, I did this and I couldn't stop eating. And she'll say, well, you're not working hard enough with the fellows. You have to, work vigorously with them. You have to, take those actions, go help another. And I tried to help others. But again, I couldn't be much help because I really wasn't cleaning house, as they say, with my own higher power, with my own God. Um, so life took a little twist and turn for me. Something personal happened in my family life, and I remember reaching a place, slowly, leaving, this connection to this, to the program, and I kept getting more and more in self. Medically, we have to figure this out. How we're going to figure this out. I wanted to be helpful to my son to help him, get out of, or help him, get better with his own disease. And I was frozen. I I I thought that this cannot be happening after all this work that I'm trying to do here, God. Why is this happening? So I did relapse, and my relapse was over like 3 months, right? I picked up something I shouldn't have, then I tried to stop, then I picked it up again, then I would pick this up, and then in 3 months I was just eating, you know, everything and anything. It was a big mess. And during this time, my son had to have surgery. And I remember during this process, though, the only thing I could have offered to my son um, was really going to a higher power, just like I had to go to a higher power with my own illness. And that I have to say is, the best thing I think that ever happened to me, because I found God, and finding, God, I present this solution to my son for his own fears, because he would come to me, and with the fear, and that, because there was a possibility that, was going to be, terrible ending, and death. I had to come to terms with that. I had to come to terms with that as well. I had to almost like welcome the idea that, how whatever was going to be was going to be. And so the gift that this program allowed me to give to my son was the gift of him finding its own higher power. So never did I say to my son, "Oh, don't worry, don't think negative." I actually asked him, well, let's see what that's about. Yeah, these are natural. Fear is absolutely natural. And and I remember giving him a few books about staying in the here and the now, and not, believing our thoughts, really to stay in the moment, in the present, and that there is a higher power there listening. There's a spirit of the universe. There's a God. And as I'm doing this with him, right, I started to have a change in myself as well, my own higher power, my own belief. was coming through. And meanwhile, I was doing the steps with a sponsor. So this was all happening simultaneously. And I remember at a certain point with my sponsor coming, on a conversation, on a phone conversation, I remember saying to her, if I don't have God, I don't have anything. Because things can happen all the time, right? Look, I could lose my son. The worst thing you think could happen can actually happen. How am I to live? How am I to be? How am I ever to smile again? How am I ever to be happy while my son is suffering through this disease? And here I am trying to show up. So I really had to make God everything, because if not, there was nothing. There was no God. You know what there was going to be? Misery, more fear, more pain, right? Suffering, eating. Um, it's a terrible way to live for me when I don't make God everything. And so I remember having that awakening, and that's what it was for me. I really conceded to my innermost self that I have this, that living, without God, trying to live my life by self-propulsion does not work. This is how I'm spiritually sick. I need to be spiritually well. So the wellness is more God, is more higher power. And so for me to get to that place, not only was it my son's, a terrible diagnosis, which he still suffers from today, but it's manageable. He's fine. He's okay. But he has to, get tested every year. And so where am I to be with this, right? How was I to see that my reliance had to be on a God? Because the truth is that if I still rely on you, right? If I still rely on my husband, my children, my in-laws, for COVID not happening, or all that, these are all expectations, and expectations, like we heard, are all resentments, right? About to happen. Something's bound to not be as I want them to be. Again, when I took my third step, right, when I came to do the steps, somewhere in between the steps there, somewhere, I saw that the third step prayer for me is where I decide to turn my will and my life over to this power that I cannot live without, right? Because step two, I had a choice to make, right? On page 53, step two asks me, I came to see, right, this crushing blow, right? A self-imposed crisis we could not postpone or evade. We had to fearlessly face the proposition that either God is everything or else he is nothing. God either is or he isn't. What was our choice to be? So in step two, we choose that, are we going to make our solution God, or am I still going to keep trying to do it myself? So either God is going to be present in my life. If not, I have the alternate way of living, right? Which it tells us on there is a solution all the time. It says we have two alternatives. I can keep on going, fighting to the best of my ability, right? Trying to, make the best of me doing it by myself. Again, another attempt, failing, vain attempt, or accept spiritual help. I have those two alternatives. I can't choose to eat or not to eat because I'm going to eat. So my plan of eating was given to me by a nutritionist. I had to take away all the deciding, the deciding rights, if you wish. I had to trust someone, and the first week was the hardest. It was so hard, and I felt I was gaining weight. My sponsor said, "We'll do this plan of eating for one week. If you feel you're gaining weight, we're gonna stop." And and I always felt like full. I always felt full for a whole week. And when I got on that scale, I was like, okay, that's it. I'm gonna prove her wrong. I got on the scale and I lost 3 pounds. I was like, I get on the scale again. Got 3 pounds. I get on the scale again. 3 pounds. How did this happen? Like, I've been eating, and that was my first, act of spirituality, right? The first act of honesty is saying, wow, I really don't know. And here I thought I knew everything about how I had to eat, what I had to eat, when, and why I had to eat certain foods. And wow, I couldn't have been further from the truth. So, um, that was my first, abandoning myself to someone else's, to help that was required for me to stay abstinent. And so the chatter in my mind quieted. And then from there, I was able um, to do the other steps. So step two is telling me God has to be, or he's not going to be. I can't take God when I want, right? I can't make him my little errand boy or like a husband. Like I can't be, I can't be like Mrs. God. I want to be Mrs. God. Oh, you think you can do this, right? It's like, honey, can you take out the garbage? Or honey, it, that's that's me again trying to control this power how I want it to be, and it didn't work. So here I chose the solution of God is going to be everything, right? So then step three, it asks me, are you ready to turn your will and your life over to the care of this higher power, right? So my will and my life are all my thoughts and then my actions to the care. So it's not going to be punitive. It's not going to be because I'm a bad person or a bad girl who's going to take away everything to punish me. Those are my old ideas. And when we read the agnostics, right, we learn about, setting aside, right, all those prejudices, all those old ideas for new ideas, a new concept, a new attitude. A new attitude will come into play. So I had to look at that as well. How I myself I'm not able to see. I know my beautiful sponsor says, I am blind, but my higher power, my God sees perfectly. I am so blind, but God sees perfectly. So having taken, that step of wanting, to turn my will and my life over to God, we have to see where I was blocked because I'd want to, and then I'd get blocked again. So I had to do inventory right away. It says right away we do inventory, like a rocket launch, right? Rocket launch is not like a skip in the park. It's fast. You need, I don't know how much power or fuel, but it's quick. So we do it right away. And I had to do the inventory and I had to see where I'm blocked. Where's my thinking? Where am I, where am I in all this? All my resentments, the self-centeredness, the dishonest thinking, all my beliefs, all that had to be looked at with a God's point of view, with a godly point of view. And for me, my God is a caring God, not a punishing God anymore, is a God of understanding, forgiveness, because I can't forgive. For me, resentments come up is because I'm not forgiving. I'm upset at something because it's not going my way. And I don't forgive people when they have their own shortcomings, when they don't follow through as I think they're supposed to. So I had to look at all that and the fear, right? The fear is that corroding, like it says, that fabric, right? That just steals away my joy. It really does. Because I think by nature, by human nature, we are meant to be serene. We're meant to be joyful and free. And the fear doesn't keep me joyful and free. It actually keeps me like I have to do something. I have to control something because I'm about to lose something or not get something. And I'm so busy trying to figure it out. What's in your mind? What are they thinking? What are they going to do? It's like playing chess with everyone else's thinking. And the lie is that I'm not there. Nothing is happening. It's all an illusion, all a delusion again, like it tells me. I have this way of thinking that always tries to want to protect, right? Protect. And then if I don't feel like I'm doing such a good job, again, I become very angered, very anxious. And there's where I become restless, irritable, and discontented. And that's when I used the food. That was my way. That was my solution. I'd ignore you. I'd put you aside. And then, I'm like, I can't control you, but you know what? I'm going to control this. And somehow it would always be about the food. Somehow it would always be about the food. And it tells me throughout the book that if I don't do this, I will always go back to eating. That's my solution to all of that. So here, the step work is actually allowing me to see how I would be if I ask for God for this caring, forgiving, compassionate, power, because I lack power, right? I don't like a diet. I like this power. So I have to seek And it tells me here, we seek God now, right? When we take the steps, you seek God now. So wherever I'm at, I seek God. And so I ask, how would God want me to be with this? And at the very beginning, I had to learn, to find the words. How would God want me to be? And, it tells me my code in the big book is, love and tolerance. So loving, yes, loving would be just that. No, no ill feeling. It would encompass, forgiving others, seeing how I too fall short. I too can sometimes find myself doing things that perhaps others expected differently, that perhaps I don't know everything. That was huge. And now it's a blessing because now I can say, oh my God, there's something I'm missing. God, please help me see. Let me know what I am missing. Why am I still resentful? Where's the fear, God? I don't see my dishonesty. And I do the work and I do the work. And after having done this for so long, mostly the last 3 years, I've done this intensely. Um, I do the work intensely because my life depends on it, right? And not only my life, but the lives around me that matter. So I can actually like myself. I can actually stand myself because there was a point where I used to wake up, right, remorseful, hating myself for what I said, what I did, all the circumstances in my life. Everything felt, so terrible. Like there was stuff going on. And I couldn't get out of it. I couldn't get out of it. So again, where is God in all this? Where's God? Right? That's my truth. Where is God? I go to God first. So the step work helped me make amends where I've hurt others and I have harmed others. And in my step 10, it actually helps me see again the pattern, how it's coming. Where am I in fear? Where is the dishonest thinking? Here I am trying to manage, right? And the unmanageability, right? It's my step one. Right? We all think, or I thought only I'm just powerless over food. But the truth is that my life is unmanageable, right? It's unmanageable because I lack power. If it was just I'm powerless over food, we just have that one step, the doctor's opinion explaining the allergy of the body. And that's it. We just go to Weight Watchers. How about that? People who have problem with food and weight go to Weight Watchers. They get a plan of eating, and there you go. They're okay. But I'm here. I'm here because I lack power, right? And it comes in my unmanageability, right? My thoughts, my ideas, how I see the world has to change. My perspective on everything, right? Staying in reality is my trouble. I separate from God, and there I go. I'm out there somewhere. That's where my true source of suffering comes from, is if I am anywhere else but here with God and the reality, God will help me see the truth. And I practice this every day throughout the day. My step 11 showed me how I am to do. Sometimes I wake up and I feel, a little bit out of sorts and I'm still tired, but I have to get connected because I feel that that's the only thing that brings me up. So I just read 86 to 89 sometimes, and it starts and it asks me to direct my thinking, right? Why? Because God has to be everything for me. So in the morning, every morning, God first. And then I can see, okay, next 24 hours, this is what I have planned. God, if this is your will for me, let me know, right? What is your invitation for me? Who can I help? Or can I be of service? I and my nightly has me see where I was dishonest and fearful, and if I didn't look at it honestly, I ask God for corrective measures. And so the next morning when I do wake up, I look at that again. And in meditation, prayer and meditation, I ask God, and in meditation, I wait for the directions to come so I'm able to serve, right? The purpose is really to serve God and others here. And there's my purpose now. I don't worry about my weight anymore. I don't worry about how I look as much as I did before. I still will always be a little bit maybe vain. I still want to get my hair done and my whatever, but that's all in healthy boundaries. It's not disproportionate. Before, my thinking was so disproportionate. Now I feel God keeps me sane, keeps me in in an alignment, if you want, right? I'm disciplined now, and the big book is teaching me this day in and day out. And I work with others. I carry this beautiful message that we could be free from ourselves, from our, like step 3. It tells me I'm in bondage. There I am, self bondage again, thinking about me, how this is going to work out, like as if I know. And so I do the daily because I only have a daily reprieve. I can't think too much in advance. But I do try to plan my day, being of service to my sponsees, to others. I get on meetings. I try to be available. And there's where I find God. Every time I read the big book with a sponsee, a chapter, a page, I get a phone call to a 10th step, God is there. And so much so that my husband notices it as well. He said to me, "Yeah, you're different. You're approachable." Or he says, "Your approach is different." I think he meant to say my approach, meaning my perspective, is just lighter, it's just happier, it's less, probably less tight and less, I don't know, upset or whatever here, however he sees me to be, or worried or anxious. So I know this works. Um, and it has been, you know, really a journey, right? I don't graduate. I don't wait till I'm going to get out of here anytime soon. No, I get to do this today. Whereas once it became like hard and like, I don't really want to do this. And then I had to do it because I was told to do it. And then I did it because I needed it. I started to feel it. Now I look forward to doing it. I get to do it. You know, I need, not only do I need it, but it just fills me up. Why? Because there's God there. Really, I really do feel different when I'm in the big book, reading the steps, doing the work, listening to others share. I'm growing here, right? I'm growing. And I, like someone said, that God, right? God, grow or die. That's how I feel. So God for me has to be everything, because if not, it becomes nothing. And my my, my life is not, I don't know, it's not joyful, it's not freeing. um, that's how I want to live today. I don't know. I think, am I close to my time? I think I'm done. I think I'm running out. So all this to say, I really feel that everybody, do we all come in hopeless, right? None of us come in here, on a winning streak. But you know what? There's help. Ask a recovered sponsor, someone who's in the big book, someone who's done the steps, who can show you, who can guide you. I'm just a guide for them to find their own relationship with power, right? And once they find it, they build on it. And this, we keep going, and that's really how it works, right? We have a whole chapter that says how it works, right? And then into action. So we just follow the directions here. And yeah, that's all I have to say. So I hope it was useful to
Yeah,
someone, and reach
5
out
minutes.
anytime. I'll leave my it's done. Well, I'm
Yeah,
done.
five.
Thank you. I'll leave it for others. I'd love to hear what you all have to share about your God experience. Thank you. Pass.
Thank you, Cathy. That's amazing. Loads and loads of identification. I'm just finding my script. So okay, so now is the time that we will open the Q&A section of the meeting. Um, um, which will also be recorded. Please post your questions only in the chat function, and our host Alan will ask the questions on your behalf. So yeah, over to you, Alan, and we'll go ahead and open the questions.
Thank you, Linda, and thanks, Cathy, for a very detailed presentation. Certainly hear your connection with your higher power. So, as Linda said, please post your questions in the chat to me, and I'll ask them for you. So the first question says, how do you know what is your own will and what is God's will?
That's a great question. So my will is tight. It's a bit intrusive. It makes me a little bit anxious. God's will is calming. It's quiet, and it really does feel loving. And it really has me, my whole body, my whole like sensation in the body is calm, and I don't feel resentment anymore towards whatever I was asking God help with. I don't feel tight. I don't feel like the struggle. I feel the struggle has gone, has left me. And if I still feel tight, I still feel uncomfortable, that means I still really haven't had, the honest truth about what I am to do. And I still stay there and I still sit there and I still ask. I keep asking. I keep, asking God until that feeling leaves me. And every morning I don't leave my prayer and meditation time till I get to that point, till I feel like I'm relieved, till it's gone, it's out, and again I'm in a loving, helpful, you know, attitude and presence. I feel free. I feel free.
There we go. Great question and great response. Okay, the next one says, how do you define the God of your understanding?
That changed over the years. And at the very beginning, it was spirit of the universe, because I heard that term in the big book. And I heard someone else saying, it's like, look it up at all the stars, look it up, there's so much energy out there. That's where I first understood it. There's where I was at the beginning. And it says, wherever I'm at, it's a beginning. It's great. All we need to do is just have a belief in a higher power, which I did. That's all was needed. And that was at the very beginning. And it evolved, it changed. And now, wherever I'm at, sometimes I need forgiveness. So I need God to show me forgiveness. I understand God through forgiving. I understand God through love. And I also understand God through signs. There was this one time where I had to get on a meeting to share, but I completely forgot about it. And I remember talking to a friend on the phone, and all of a sudden something said, go on that meeting, go on that meeting. And I had to cut off my friend off the phone to get on that meeting. And then, the presenter said, oh, here's our speaker, Cathy. And I chatted her. I said, I'm not the speaker, must be the other Cathy. And so meanwhile, I get a text from them showing me the text that I agreed to speak on that day, on that time. And I said to them, wow, I said, I'm only here, not because of memory, because I didn't have it on my phone. I was brought here by this power. God wanted me to be here because I had committed somehow. I found myself there. And I wouldn't go to this meeting anymore because COVID, not left, but COVID was over. So I was busy working, but I'd still made the commitment like 4 months before. So I had no idea. But though something was telling me, get on that meeting. It was 11 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday. Usually I'm busy. So there, I have signs all the time. I see. That's how I understand God, but I have to be open every morning, be open to receive, and to have that attitude that, there is a greater good out there, and I am to follow, I am to listen, I am to hear. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that question and response again. Okay, so apologies to the next two kind of questions. I'm going to kind of merge together because they kind of are basically asking the same thing. So the people who ask these, please forgive me. If you don't get the specific answer you wanted, please feel free to write again. But the questions are basically, how do you keep a strong connection with that kind of the busyness of life? When things get overwhelming or you just don't have time, how do you keep that connection?
So in the morning, I can't do without it. If I miss like 2 days of just sitting in contemplation, right, prayer and meditation, look at my thoughts, listen to my thoughts, what's going on my mind and my heart. If I don't do it for 2 days, everything starts to turn really, I don't know how to say it, uncomfortable. I become short-tempered. I'm, you know, I'm not very loving, if you wish. So I need to do this daily and throughout the day. So if ever I say something, or have a ill thought, my husband said this or did that, or he's not doing this, did that, I have to practice the pause. And in the pause, there's where I find God, right? Pray and use spiritual energy. And so sometimes I say a short mantra like, thy will, not mine be done. Or let me ask, I could totally be reading this wrong. And usually I am. I just want to get my way. But my way maybe is not the best way. A lot of humility, especially if I'm honest with my husband and my kids, right? Because I do think myself as, oh, I'm the mom. I should have all the answers. I should be right. Again, that's my ego. That's not God. And so I have to continue, I have to do this. And I have a 10th step call every day, and it helps me. Some people don't need it. I know I need it, and that's my truth. So that's why I do it. And it helps me see again, was I selfish today? Was I dishonest? How are you really? Are you godlike? Did you make God everything today? Were you, in God's graces today, or did you put God aside? So that's my daily discipline. This is what I have to practice every day so I could stay in that presence.
Okay, thanks for those questions. Okay, the next one says, how do you remain connected when you are facing a lot of stress and fear?
Yeah, again, sometimes the pain will push me, okay, well, you know what? You got to sit down, you got to write this out, go do a 10-step, text someone, call someone, be of service, think of someone else. Again, take those actions. Because sometimes I can't read the situation as it is. I assume a lot. And I can't do it by myself. I I literally have to stop, close my eyes wherever I'm at. I change room, I go somewhere else, and I just bring myself and I just pray. And again, it's really the 10 step that shows me how to follow through, how to see how am I thinking and believing. Because they're going to do what they're going to do. They have their own higher power. I don't know what needs to be. And you know, sometimes things will go wrong, and it's like, okay, they have their own path. There's only so much I'd want to help. So I'm codependent like that as well. And that's where I have to see, is that loving? Is that helpful? Is that necessary? Do I even need to say anything? And what if I don't? What if I just let it be? It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of courage, the people you love, and just let them find their own path, let them feel their struggles, let them find their own, God. Because that's when, things will get better once they see that, they can actually ask for help. So again, I do my 10, 11, 12 as best as I can in the moment, in the moment.
Thank you, and thanks for the question. And the next one says, can you talk a bit about what the phrase God sufficiency means to you?
God's sufficiency, yes. I find I'm insufficient. I'm just not enough. I don't know everything. I think I could read people's minds. I think I know what they're going to do. I think what their next action is going to be. I think, well, this should be this way, and all the should-haves, right? I'm always shoulding uh, on myself and others. But I see this. I come to see that the only real peace I ever have, the real separation, I guess, from myself and from all my thoughts really is when I'm God sufficient. And it is always enough. And I always get more than what I had asked. That's the beauty of it. Like in the material world, right? You buy I don't know, you buy a book, it's like $20, let's say, and you get the book, right? That's what it costs. But in the God world, in my God's world, I just give him a little bit of like openness and a little bit of like, you know, I abandon myself to God and I ask for direction. And then I get so much more. Never would I have thought the outcome. And it's ongoing. I become more sensitive to this power, right? That God consciousness we talk about, right? It's like an intuition. It speaks to me. I hear it. And I'm able to go back and make amends. I'm able to be helpful. My attitude changes. And I'm just like grateful. Like it always comes back to that gratitude. Am I grateful? Even though I'm going through this, despite illness, I'm still grateful. There's always something wonderful happening. There's always something to be grateful for. And I look for that. I look for that. So I know God for me has to be everything. I don't have a choice.
Great question. Thank you for that response, Cathy. The next one asks, if you meditate, can you share details about how you do that?
Yes. So when I first, heard the word meditation, I thought it was gonna be like, that thing. And for me, that doesn't work. Like I couldn't do that like after like a yoga or a Pilates thing, which I don't do, but that was my understanding of meditation only. But you know, I went on a workshop. It was a year-long workshop, and it was through COVID. And the instructor or the lead, you know, he actually had me see meditation and prayer, what it really looked like. And prayer is really, for me, is an intention, right? What is my intention? What am I asking, you know, from this higher power? And it's not for me to ask God to give me, you know, a healthy son, to make my husband, you know, stop doing this or start doing that, or for me to stop eating, or for me to stop, you know, whatever. It's actually me asking God, what is your will for me? You know, I am having trouble with this. Can you help me with this? What am I to do? And or you know, my husband and my son, you know, they're going through this. How can I help them? Show me how I can be of help. This is my prayer, right? It's with intention. And meditation is I just wait and sit, and I do two-way prayer. So I take out my pen and paper and I ask, how did I fall short today? Or what would, you know, what would be for me to be useful today? What am I missing? Why don't I feel close to this power today? There's always something that I can always write on what happened, my mind, my thinking, my mood, what is about to happen. So I have to come back, and I ask God here to help me in the moment. So two-way prayer I do. And then I just wait and sit, and then I write, and then things come to me. And it's always about love and gratitude and being of service, be helpful, how I could be helpful. And these ideas come to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can do that. I can do this. And then during the day, things come to me. Oh, call that person. Oh my God, you know, do this, think this. And it's like, wow, this is great. This is so great. Like I never would have thought of that. So that's how my prayer meditation. And at night, I don't do it as elaborate as I do in the morning. At night, I do it in the toolkit. I send it to my sponsor and to another member, and it has me, you know, and I answer those questions, and I always write my gratitudes and what I could have done better and how I was in the stream of life today. So I write, you know, got on meetings, sponsee calls, helped my in-laws, you know, figured out how to set, you know, more healthy boundaries with my children or my husband. And the boundaries are me. The boundaries are me. I can't go to a certain place, right? I have to be, you know, do what God would want me to do. How far? I can't go too far. Sometimes, you know, I need to follow God's you know, suggestions, not my own. And so that's what I do at night, but it's not as elaborate because then the next morning, like it stays with me, right? Because I have an obsessive mind too. Since I was young, I knew I had, you know, lacked power. I always had these obsessions. I was always in my head. The food only came out later, but I was always, you know, obsessive compulsive, you know, a thinker person. And so God helps me just quiet it. I don't have to obsess. I can actually make it really small, small, small. And eventually it leaves me, you know, just like with the food, but now it's my relationships. I'm obsessing over what they said, about what's going to happen. And like, oh my God, I'm like the great American writer here. I can write a novel, actually, one of those thriller movies. It's really crazy when I'm thinking. So yeah, that's how my prayer meditation looks like. Thank you for the questions again.
The great question, very detailed answer. A simple question: would you be willing to share your contact details in the chat?
Yes, I will do that.
Any point would be great. Just in case, we've still got about 10 minutes and we've got a few questions left, so hopefully we should get around to doing them all. Just trying to pad while Cathy posts some contact details in the chat. Okay. There we go, perfect. Okay. So this person, I'm basically summarizing, is struggling to accept the higher power's will when it's asking them to do more. So they ask, how do you develop the confidence to grow with your higher power and not just to live and strive, but to thrive and be joyful?
You know, I also have to see how powerless I am to that. You know, I would wish I want more. That's part of my, you know, the nature of my illness, right? I always have to want to be somewhere else. I have a little bit, well, maybe I can get more. Is it enough? So sometimes I have to listen to that voice and say, no, 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 it is enough. God will let me know if I am enough, if I'm thriving or not. And I'm powerless to that. I'm powerless to that, but I can ask God to show me. I believe you will show me, God, if I need to do more. If I'm not, if something else is lacking, show me, what am I lacking? Why do I feel like I'm not thriving? What am I doing or what am I not doing? What am I afraid to face today? And if I sit quietly, I do my inventory, who or what comes to mind? Or when I think of someone, what are the thoughts? Are they loving or are they still, you know, pushing them away? I don't want to engage with them. I want to keep them at a certain distance. What am I avoiding and why? And sometimes if I don't know, I'm going to do my steps again on that person. And I do 12 steps, like, the whole run through at least once a year as well. That's what helps me. But again, I'll never feel that feeling of, wow, it's like 1,000%. I feel amazing. No, I just have a daily reprieve. It's really moment by moment. I remember my sponsor telling me moment by moment, because one moment I'm okay, and the next moment I'm not. I'm angry and whatever. And then, I do the work or something happens and then I'm free again. And then something can come again. Like, I don't believe in, like, the sunshine and rainbows all the time. No, that's not reality for me. But the thing is, the hope is that I know this too shall pass. That, it'll be okay. This too will be okay. All is well. All is well. I just keep going. Thank you.
Hey, thank you for the question. Okay, the next question asks, did you do all of this work, as in higher power, meditation? Did you learn all of that from your sponsor, or did you learn a lot by yourself?
Well, my sponsor was a great guide, or my sponsors, I should say. I've had a lot, but the past 3 years I've had the same one. And I do by myself because my sponsor shares her experience as well. Um, the sponsors carry me through the big book and they share. And I also had to see, is that me? Am I behaving like that? Was I like Bill? Am I agnostic? um am I really doing these action steps, or am I just reading the book, right? So I had to see for myself, and you know what, pain and suffering was the motivator, because I still felt, I was still, compulsive in my mind. I was still angry. So I had to keep going back. So God helps me, but I need to show up. I need to do, you know, uh, the work. I can't do it without God, but I'm the one who's gonna, follow plan of eating, get a nutritionist, at the very beginning, do the work, show up for phone calls, be of service, get sponsees, because God's saying maybe you work with others. And it's so amazing that, when I feel like, okay, like I have only one sponsee, I know I have time for two. A day or two goes by and I get a phone call. I'm like, what? Okay, thank you. Like, just stuff like that happens all the time. Like, I don't know, it's just amazing. It's just amazing. So, um, you know, sponsors are great. I need my sponsor, but I really rely on God first, and then I take those actions. I need to follow through. And I only speak to my sponsor if I really have something heavy and something that I just can't let go, or I just want to, like, just let her know that I'm not doing, that well. And so she always gives me that loving, space for me. And then I come to my own realization that God is there. Am I willing? Am I willing? Am I going to make God everything again? Am I going to trust again? Or still, or am I going to continue even with this? Even with this. So that's I hope I answered that question to your satisfaction. Thank you.
Indeed, thank you so much for the question. Okay, so the next one asks, we're nearly coming to the end. You said you do the step 10 calls. Can you talk about the process before you make the call, kind of the work that you do?
Yeah, so I in the morning, again I do my, reflection. I do my quiet time with God. I invite God to come in. Or actually I don't invite him. I actually allow myself to be open to receive. And sometimes things might come up. So then I start writing it out, and I have, I've pretty much been doing this daily for 3 years. So it's pretty much ingrained in me. I can do it anywhere in the car or whatever. So sometimes I write it out, and I get to speak to someone every day, and I share it with that person. And if I have another one, um, I can just, do it with God. And if I feel like I have to discuss it with someone, if I have to voice it, then I will do it again either that day or the next day again with that person. So it's very organic. It happens in the moment. And I sometimes I write it on my phone. If I'm somewhere and I just want to write it down, I make a little note and I write all this down on my phone. And I just feel a connection again, because there's always a part where God is there. There's always something that says, okay, now enough complaining. What's really going on here? And it's always something inside me, how I'm blocked. I'm resisting. And so then I become compassionate again. I become, you know, closer to where my higher power would want me to be, and then I become free and I'm released. I'm released from whatever I thought I had to hang on to. So yeah, so I write it out, I text it out, or I just call it out. That's how my 10 steps work.
Fantastic, great response. So just to kind of wrap us up, because that was the end of the questions, what advice would you give to a newcomer, someone who's new that sees that God word and wants to kind of run? What advice would you give them?
Yeah, so for just like, well, for me, when I was at the beginning, I wanted to grab the information, right? Grab the stuff and leave. Um, but the thing is, when we come in, we really have a set of, think we know ourselves. We think we have all these ideas, all these beliefs, we're ambitious. We want to, get to that end, at the end. So we feel we're finally going to be like done with this. But the actual experience is in the journey, right? It's in the now, it's in the moment, it's in the process. All I was asked to do was to be willing. And that willingness comes with actions. If not, it's just a thought. And so, it's normal, or for me, it was very common that I didn't necessarily see, my recovery. I didn't feel this God. I wasn't really connected to all those sponsors, but I kept going again. I still kept showing up. I kept doing it. They asked me to write inventory. I just kept doing it. And then after the actions, my feelings started to change and catch up. So, take the action, the feelings will follow. Don't believe everything that's in your head. And still today, I can't believe everything that's in my head. That's just the nature of my illness. That's just how it is. I lack power. I don't have the power to see the truth. I don't have power to be loving 100% all the time, to be compassionate, to be forgiving, right away. But it does happen. So stay with it. Just continue. Have faith in the process. You might not believe it at the moment. No one's asking you for that, but it's just a willingness just to continue. So I hope that helps.
Thank you so much, Cathy, for an incredible presentation tonight and the questions. Thank you so much, everybody, for a great meeting. I'll hand it back to Linda to close us out.
Oh, thanks, Alan. And yeah, thank you, Cathy. It was an amazing share. Question and answer time has now come to a close. So we will now open the chat to share our numbers for outreach. For those who would like to, please share your name and number. Please could all available absent sponsors indicate if you're available to sponsor. For any newcomers, we have a newcomer hub where our newcomer greeters, Cara and Claire, will be very happy to have a more informal chat and answer any questions. So if you would like to stay behind at the end and have a chat, then please raise your virtual hand now, your electronic hand now, and you will be invited to a breakout room. This group also has a WhatsApp group for fellowship and inspiration. Please see the chat box for the link that's being shared now. And we will now close the meeting in the same way we always close a New Freedom Big Book study by reading the 12 promises of recovery as laid out in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, from the bottom of page 83, starting with the paragraph, if we are painstaking, and ending, if we work for them. And Cathy, would you like to read the promises for us, please?
Yes,
You shared on the screen.
page 84, right? Oh, you have them there. Okay. AA promises. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We're going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Cathy, and thank you for joining us today. Our meetings are recurring on a weekly basis, and our next meeting is scheduled for next Wednesday at the same time, 7:30 British GMT. May your higher power bless you and keep you until then.